Sometimes I ask myself if I'm too naive about Sweden. Maybe I'm a bit too positive about Sweden. You know why I ask myself that? Because when I have conversations with people, they often ask me how I find Sweden, and I ask the same question back. And I'm most of the time the one who says, I love it here, and the others have so much more to say. I would dare to say that most of the time when people reply to my question, it is not that positive. Normally, there's always something they kind of criticize about Sweden. No, don't get me wrong. Sweden is not perfect. There are struggles and challenges here in Sweden, also personally. But still, I wonder why I'm always the positive one and the others not. So in today's video, I want to talk a little bit about those perspectives, including mine, but also compare it with other people's perspectives to see if I'm too naive or too positive, or maybe I am the one who has the right attitude. Let's find out. Welcome to my channel. I'm Julie. I'm originally from Germany, and maybe this background is actually quite important when you hear me talking about Sweden. I also have lived in London for actually 10 years and 1 year in Singapore. So it's not the first time that I was moving to a new country. I have done it a few times, starting from scratch, getting to know people and, getting to know the culture. And now I have been living here for a little bit over 4 years, just outside of Stockholm. Thanks for being here and for subscribing to my channel. I also have a newsletter where I actually talk about life in Sweden, and I always post some cool properties in the newsletter as well. So there's a link in the description down below. You also get a little ebook with 10 questions about Sweden if Sweden is the right fit for you. Sign up below. And without further ado, let's get started. Okay, the first thing I want to talk about is social life. And I know if you have been a follower of mine, you have listened to me. I was talking about social life a few times. And I think I will keep this topic at the forefront of this channel as well, because that is just the number one question people ask when they want to move here. And also when I talk to people, they often ask about how my social life here in Sweden is and compare it to their social life. For example, the other day I was talking to a mom. She has a son, and she was telling me that her son has a best friend and they really get close and they hang out at each other's houses. And she was wondering, she really wanted to connect with the mom, but said that nothing really happens, that, she's not getting invited or things like that. So she was really wondering, what she should do or why it's not working, basically. And then I asked her if she ever has invited the mom for a coffee or to hang out or something. And she said no. And I had to laugh a little bit or smile, because I thought, maybe Sweden is not the country where people make the first step. Maybe that could be an issue, if you are used to people who just come to you and are very open, and inviting you straight, without maybe knowing you much or whatever it is. I get it that this is a nice thing to have, where you don't have to put much effort and you just get to know people and they invite you. But knowing that maybe Swedes are not so much like that, in my opinion, from what I know in the last 4 years, often it is because they also have a little bit of fear maybe, or they don't want to step over people's boundaries. So if they don't know that you would like that, they would not even try to ask. I'm sure there's a bit of overthinking going on, but the mom also did a lot of overthinking, because I said, why did she never invite her for a coffee? And then she said, because she is scared, maybe the mom could say no or whatever it is. And I was just thinking, here I was thinking, now I get the answer, why Swedes don't want to connect. But then I realized, they don't put the effort in. They don't ask, they don't invite, they don't do the things where you, after you did those things, would say oh, that's all that they don't want to or whatever. I know this could also be the case, but again, I'm talking about stories I hear, the people I meet, and when we talk about Sweden. Then also I met someone else the other day, and I was asking, how he likes Sweden. And he said it's terrible. And I was like, because I have this YouTube channel, I'm maybe more interested than usual, because I always think about you and think about what I can talk about here on my channel. And so I really investigated, and I was like, why do you not like Sweden? And he has been living here for 13 years, so quite a while. He basically said that he can't connect deeply on a deeper level with people. They don't have time, when you ask them to spontaneously meet up or just to commit to things, like he would experience like a lot of resistance or not a lot of response, let's say that. But then I also got to know him a little bit. I did an observation as well. And when he connects with people, he does that on a very superficial level. Like you often have the impression that he is actually not very interested in you as a person. And for me, that was a sign, like, I think he just puts this kind of message out there, that's why people maybe don't want to connect on a deeper level with him, because he is actually not doing the same. So again, there's a little bit that people really have certain expectations, but when you kind of reverse it, they don't live up to their own expectations. At least that is my observation. I could be wrong, or let's say there could be many other examples where this is not the case. But again, I talk to quite a lot of people, and my experience is, that people are quite critical about life in Sweden, especially the social life in Sweden. But every time I investigate a little bit more, the effort part is quite minimal. The expectations are very high. Of course, this is kind of only my perspective, my analysis of the people, what they tell me. But sometimes I still think, when every time I ask someone and they say, something negative, or the first answer is like, oh, I don't really like Sweden, or I would love to move somewhere else. Like, I always think like, oh my God, am I the only one who loves Sweden, who loves living here in Sweden? Again, I can only repeat myself. It is not without struggles, life in Sweden. But still, there's so many things, and if you have watched my YouTube channel, you know all the reasons why Sweden is a great country. It ticks a lot of boxes for me. And I don't want to discuss my social life again here in this video, because there are many other videos out there if you're curious how I perceive my social life here in Sweden, and if I struggle with social life in Sweden, then make sure to watch the other videos. Another thing I want to talk about is finding work. So that comes up often when, we talk about Sweden and life in Sweden. We talk about work life basically a lot as well. And I know a lot of people who struggle to get a job here in Sweden. It is actually a real issue. And I was looking a little bit into stats. There's obviously statistics, and there's also a little bit of reality. Unemployment rate is still quite high here in Sweden, especially compared with other EU countries. And it's not that I want to analyze why this is. I just want to kind of talk about that this is actually a reality here, that it is harder to find a job, especially as an expat or an international who maybe doesn't speak Swedish. But I actually have also talked to Swedes about that, and I have talked to Swedes who were looking for jobs and who really struggle to find a job. So whilst experts or internationals have it even harder, it is not that Swedes have it super easy to find jobs. So the job market is not great where we are now in October 2025. It's still a struggle, but there are things you can actually do to kind of make a better situation for you, and that is networking, to get to know people. And I hear you saying, I don't know anyone in Sweden, I don't even live in Sweden yet, or whatever it is, and I really hear you. But again, it comes to putting effort into the whole thing. Like, jobs will not come to you. And sometimes when you apply for a lot of jobs, that is also not enough these days. Sometimes you have to think a little bit out of the box or connect with people. And by that, I come from a very digital background, so maybe I'm a little bit biased, but there's a lot you can do digitally, but then also, through networking events. So that is a little bit the key here when it comes to job searching. I actually know a friend of a friend who also was looking for a job for like a year, and at the end of the day she connected with people on LinkedIn through DMs, and this is how she actually found a job despite applying to many jobs before. I think you really have to start getting to know people in a way, because there's a lot. Sweden is quite known, from what I know, in the business and work market, job market. If you know people, you have just a better chance. But you can start from zero. You don't have to know anyone, and then you just work your way up. You go to networking events, you connect with people. And LinkedIn is big, and I mentioned that in one of my videos before as well. LinkedIn is quite big here in Sweden, so I have a good chance to connect with people and start conversations online first, and then have conversations about open roles, or applying, or connect with people you applied for a job. I just wanted to say that this is a big issue. People talk about it. It's a struggle. It's real. And I do understand that this kind of drags you down a little bit as well. And if you do not find a job here and make money, life is not that great in Sweden, basically, right? This is kind of one of the basics we need. We need a roof over our head. We need to pay the bills. We need income. And if that's not a given, then of course life in Sweden is a struggle. And last but not least, the weather. People still complain the weather. And I get it. When it comes to social life, like, we have semi-control, obviously we can blame people, but we still have kind of control over how we can meet people. When it comes to the job market, also, I think it is a struggle. It's hard, but you still control, with applications, with thinking out of the box, with contacting people, all the things I just mentioned. But when it comes to the weather, it's fascinating to me that people still complain a lot, because the weather is one thing you can't really control, but you can be very aware of it, and you can kind of create your life around it. For example, now it's October, it's getting colder. We had actually an amazing September here in Stockholm, and also the mid-October or end of October. It looks really nice, it's a proper autumn, proper fall, it looks beautiful. But obviously winter is coming, and it's getting colder and it's getting darker. But I personally love November and December, because it's the run up to Christmas and everything looks amazing, and you have the Yule board and the Christmas markets to look forward to. So for me, it's actually an amazing time, and I would not want to have it any other way. I like the cold and even the dark, because obviously of all the lights in November and December. But I get it. January, February, March, April, it's a long time. 4 months, where, it's a little bit of a struggle, but it's coming. It's darker, longer, but you can still enjoy it. I think there's still many sunny days here in Sweden. Even if the period is a little bit shorter, you just have to cozy up a little bit, make the most of it. And not to forget all the outdoor sports you can do during winter, the skiing, the snowboarding, even like hiking in winter in snow, for example. It's really nice. And then, you can even go into the water, because that's actually what people do. They go in the ice cold water, dip in. It's good for your health. And also sauna makes so much more sense when it's cold outside. It's so much more enjoyable when it's cold outside. If you have heat and then go to the sauna, maybe that doesn't make too much sense, but if you can dip into the cold and then go into the sauna, it's not only good for your health, it also feels quite amazing. And I'm guilty of that. I'm not doing this enough. I have done it a few times, but again, I'm not doing it on a regular basis. There's always something to improve. So yeah, even Swedes complain about the weather in Sweden. And for me, this is now getting a little bit like, why are we complaining about the weather when we know what to expect? And at least when it comes, to March and April, at least you can look forward to the summer. So there's a German word actually called Vorfreude, which means pre-joy. So you have this period of time before it happens where you can actually be quite happy that something amazing is about to come. And that's, you know, you have this kind of mindset to get over the winter when it is a little bit harder. So what are your thoughts about social life, you know, the job market, looking for a job here, or, you know, and even working here, and also about the weather? If you do want to complain about the weather, let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear your opinion. Thanks so much for watching till the end, and I will see you in my next video. Hey da!